other concept that a lot of people don't think about is during the summer when water temperatures get really hot, we have fish kills. But in the winter, because we have very little groundwater, basically how winter works is, December comes and you'll start to get nights below freezing and ice will establish on the top of a stream or a lake, and it will start to build. And if we do not get, say, 12 to 14 inches of snow on top of that ice on a stream, that ice will continue building, like it will on a lake. So if we have a winter where we just don't get a lot of snow in December and January, the streams will actually freeze all the way to the bottom because we don't have enough groundwater coming into them. It's 50 degrees Celsius, or 50 degrees Fahrenheit, to basically flow under the ice and keep that area open for fish to live. So when you say if you're driving in January or February and some people are curious, why is the water flowing on top of the ice? It's because the stream's frozen solid. And the fish are too. So we also have winter kill situations with our trout just because we don't have a lot of groundwater. The beaver is a species which is native to this area, and a lot of our management on the Minnesota shore is on trout and salmon species which are not native. So some people have some of an issue with this. But basically, when you're managing trout streams, say if you're in the Rocky Mountains or the Great Smoky Mountains National Park or higher elevations where the air temperatures are cooler, typically the streams are made from runoff from snowmelt or glaciers or something where there's very cold water and you're at a higher elevation, so the air temperatures are cool. And typically at higher elevations, say in Colorado or in the Rocky Mountains, the streams are also have a very high gradient, and there isn't a lot of pool habitat for these trout to live. So beavers are actually looked very highly upon in the Rocky Mountains because they provide pool habitat, and the water coming in is cold and it's high enough in altitude that it's a good thing. And when people find beaver ponds in the Rocky Mountains, they're good spots to catch brook trout. In our part of the world, it's a little different story. Since we're already on the thermal margin, when you have a beaver building a pond like this, or a dam like that backs up acres and acres of water, our bedrock is brown. So when you have the sun radiating down on a 2-acre brown reservoir in a trout stream, it's not a good thing. So we do a lot of beaver management, basically on our larger trout streams, which, like I said, some groups are not in favor of it and some are, but that's currently what we do. Because a lot of our fees come from angler license fees, which if you guys buy a fishing license, that's what pays my salary, and to some extent we have to excuse me, keep people happy. So this is the Knife River watershed, which is just 15 miles north of here. And we do aerial surveys with a helicopter every fall looking for beaver dams, and we get coordinates from the helicopter. And then we have trappers go in and target those dams. And I'm going to grab a can of Cokes. Sorry. So depending upon who the user group is, some people are okay with this practice and some aren't. But the point is we manage resources for everyone. So we might intensively manage beavers in one watershed, and one watershed we might not even touch. But beaver are kind of like deer. We could attempt to shoot every deer in the state of Minnesota and it would never happen. Just the same with beavers. Another impact that we have in northeastern Minnesota is logging, and I'm certainly somebody that supports the paper industry, but there's a happy medium between overdoing everything in life. And this is a situation that I came across back in 2005, but loggers basically have restrictions on where they can log. And on any designated trout stream or cold water tributary, there's a buffer area to protect the stream so the sun doesn't get there and warm up the water. And these people didn't really like the DNR after I found this. So you can basically see that, I mean, they cut, this is a trout stream, and this is a trout stream, and this is a trout stream. It's all one and the same. They basically cut everything that was there, and here they piled a pile of slash so they could essentially drive over the stream in the winter because they do the logging in the winter. But the important part here is we've got state, and we've got a Division of Forestry in the Department of Natural Resources, which manages a lot of things like this, and we have a whole private industry, and it's important to protect our streams and our riparian areas. Certainly logging is important and necessary, but it's important to also protect these. Another impact we have in northeastern Minnesota are some agricultural activities. We certainly don't have agriculture to the extent that you do in southeastern Minnesota, but we have people up here that like horses and like to make hay, and that's good. But an important thing, and DNR has programs that they can provide fencing and fence posts and even labor to do things, and we would go in and basically put a fence 15 or 20 feet along the stream. We might allow a couple places for the horses to go drink their water, but we would protect this so the grasses again provide shade, so the temperature kind of as a temperature buffer, and we don't want animals running amok basically to increase the sediment deposition that goes downstream. This was something we ran across. The DNR does a lot of aerial surveys with helicopters statewide that people don't know about, and this was a farmer that decided to channelize a trout stream in August, and he got a pretty good find, and he got to put it back how it was. But again, you're removing all the shading, and the point of a stream meandering is it slows down the water's the amount of time water takes to get from point A to point B. So that was a bad thing, but something we deal with. Now I'm going to transition. I talked a little bit about all the difficult things and adversities our trout face on the Minnesota shore, and I'll talk a little bit about fish data now. This is the French River. We're about right there right now. You can barely see Duluth in the background. This is about, I don't know, 10 miles upstream. If you've driven along the scenic highway, you've driven over this bridge, and our office is just across the street. About 3 days ago we had ice, and we had a group of anglers that looked just like this. Today the ice went out because the wind shifted on Superior, and they're all standing on shore right now. But the two main strains of rainbow trout that we intensively manage for and study on the French River are the steelhead and kamloops, as I touched on earlier. Two ways we monitor populations on the French River is we have a juvenile trap, so just upstream from our office there's a cement weir, and basically the entire river flows through this gate and down the giant slip and slide and into a catch box. So once or twice or 3 times a week, depending upon what's happening, we'll go in and we'll measure all the juveniles, take a length and a weight and scale, and whatever biological information we want, so we know everything that's going on with the juvenile population. And pretend this picture doesn't exist. Lake Superior would be out here right now, and the bridge that you just saw in the previous photo is about right there. Everything swimming upstream essentially comes into this, and this is like a giant crayfish trap, if you can imagine what a crayfish trap looks like. The fish go through a little door at the bottom here, and then they can't figure out how to get back through. But nature tells them to migrate upstream and spawn, so they end up being in here every day, and we'll use this tool to sample adults. So I've talked a lot about temperature and flows on our stream, and I'll talk a little bit about here on how that relates to fish data. Just Nadine went through the life stages just to give you an idea, and this is what a young of the year or we say fry looks like, and this is obviously metric on the top. This is a 2-year-old and this is a 1-year-old, so you can see kind of in general how much they grow each year. And we need fish to spend about 2 years in the stream for them to have a high likelihood of returning as adults. So the key is keeping our environmental conditions favorable so they stay upstream. But if it gets too hot or freezes the bottom or something bad happens, fish die or they bail out early before they can essentially grow up.